What's up? This is John W. Snyder. This is Release Rotation. Yes, I'm still here. Yes, I still want to do my podcast. I know that it's been technically 2 months since I have recorded one, and like 6 weeks to 7 weeks since I posted one. I did do a trailer for one, and I did record another ad in the last 2 months, but I know I've been MIA when it comes to my podcast, and sometimes you just need a break. A lot happened in the last 2 months. I'm not going to make excuses. They're going to sound like excuses, but it has been super busy since mid-October. Really into September, Into September. Our 4-year-old son broke his leg. Didn't have to have surgery or anything, but was in a cast for 5 weeks. Then both of our kids get sick for about 7 days. About a week later, with, just the typical, some virus, cold, cough, fever. It wasn't the flu or anything, but that was a rough week. And then a few days later after that, my parents came in town, which was awesome. I'm from Oklahoma, if you're just now listening to this for the first time, or if you don't know me. And so I live in Southern California now, and so my parents came out for about 8 days at the end of October, over Halloween and a little bit into November. And so it has been a whirlwind since my last podcast that I recorded. So, broken legs, sick kids, parents in town, which were all an experience in their own way. But man, my parents being here, my kids, they love my parents. And so 2 weeks prior, our 4-year-old keeps asking, are they coming tomorrow? Are they coming tomorrow? And it's so hard to tell them, no, it's still a little bit of ways. But they were here, did some fun stuff with them. The day they left, our son got his cast off, and so that was like November 5th or 6th. And here we are, November 19th. The NBA season is in full swing. We know the Lakers are good. The Celtics are surprisingly good. Clippers are going to be fine. But here we are. So I do apologize for not recording a podcast in the last couple months. Mike Nguyen, this is for you, since you keep asking me. Yes, I still do have a podcast, and this is it. Hockey's in full swing. I have no clue what's going on there, because I don't follow hockey. But right now I'm following NBA, and my hometown Thunder are doing a whole lot better than I thought they would. They just came off a back-to-back in LA. Last night they played the Clippers, lost by 2. And tonight they played the Lakers and lost by 5. They are having a much better season than I thought they would after losing Russell Westbrook and Paul George over the summer. 5-9, not great, but I figured we'd be at this point, I don't know, 2-12, 3-11, but hey, 5-9, and another crazy stat in those 9 losses, 6 of those losses have been by 5 or fewer points. So they're hanging in there. I just don't know. They just can't close it out. They can't get over that hump at the end of the game. And they've lost now 6 games by 5 or fewer points. It's pretty incredible. It's the most in the NBA. They had 5 going into tonight, which was the most in the NBA. With losses by 5 or fewer. So this is a year of moral victories, if you will, for the Thunder. And I hate that term, but here we are. Moral victories. Almost as good as real victories. Not really. So, that's the Thunder for you. That's what they're doing. My Oklahoma State Cowboys football team, they're doing all right. They're doing okay. So they're bowl eligible, which is fine. They got 2 games left against West Virginia and then Bedlam against OU. So that's a primetime game, 7 p.m. on Fox, which is awesome. I think it's Fox. It's one of the Fox, either FS1 or Fox. But that should be a good game. Bedlam's always fun, which is really funny to say when they've played, like, I don't even know the stats, but if you know nothing about Oklahoma and Oklahoma State football, you obviously know the OU Sooners are a great team. And in the last 15 years, Oklahoma State Cowboys have been a better team than they used to be. But when it comes to Bedlam, it's not even close. OU, let's just say they've played 125 Bedlam games. OU's won 110 of them, or 105 of them. Out of all those games, OSU's won like 20. It's not even close. But in some of those years that OSU has won, it's knocked the Sooners out of some important bowl games, which is fine. But, I mean, when it comes to Bedlam, it tends to be close most of the time, at least in the last 2 decades. It's been close, but OU still just has our number. So, Bedlam should be fun in a couple weeks. It's November 19th. I know I said that, but it's hard to believe that 2019 is coming to an end. 2020 is just around the corner. It's really, really hard to believe. It's hard to believe where we're at in the NBA season already. I feel like time gets faster and faster the older I get, which I guess makes sense. So, you know, I heard a stat like why it goes so slow when you're younger, and it's like, well, when you're 10, 5 years is 50% of your life. But when you're 50, 10 years is, I don't know, 5% of your life? Nope, I'm horrible at math. Anyways, you get the idea. I'm so bad at math. It's incredible how I've made it this far with using numbers and certain things I have to do, but whatever. Here we are. But I want to thank you, and I appreciate you for listening to my podcast and hanging in there. I know some of you who do subscribe to my podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever, you're going to get an alert that I have a new episode, and you might not believe it, but it's true. There is a new episode. This is it. So that's really all I have about sports right now. I know I like to talk about sports, and it's hard too because when I do these, I really do want to bring my A game, and I think part of it too that I haven't done it is because I haven't had a lot to talk about, and it's hard too not having a niche, and so I'm trying to figure that out. I'm trying to, but I mean, I guess it's sports and life, but that's pretty wide range of things to talk about. It's not niche specific. Like my buddy Joel, who has a podcast on coffee. Like, that's a niche. This isn't a niche. And so, I will say though, doing my last one, the Salida experience, because we were in Salida, Colorado when I recorded that podcast with some of my best friends, that's fun, and that's what I want to do, which I know I've talked about. It's fun to talk to somebody on this thing and talk back and forth and banter and improv a little and have some fun. Can't really do that by yourself. And I know that you who are listening, other than my parents, don't really care to hear just my voice. I know for my mom, this is amazing. So she loves obviously loves to hear me talk because it's me. But I know most of you would love to hear some interviews, some banter back and forth with somebody, and I'm still trying to figure that out. One of my goals for 2020 is becoming a better communicator, and just figuring out what it is I want to talk about, and and how to talk, and how to craft an idea and a podcast that is geared to you, whoever you are, and that is not table scraps. It's not a B plus, it's an A every time. And so that's something I'm going to be working on. And I heard a quote from, he's a communicator, former pastor. His name's Rob Bell. But something he said was, honor the art form and the opportunity. Because that's what this is. It's an art form, and I get an opportunity to do this, and I need to honor that because, it's not easy, but I enjoy doing it, and I love doing it. And so that's what's going to happen the next year, is becoming a better communicator and figuring out how to do this thing the right way. So I've got some more thoughts on this, and I'll get to those when we come back from this break. And we're back. So communication and communicating, that's the one thing that I really do want to get better at. Because it's something that I'm passionate about, and I do want to figure out a way to give back. And doing that through this podcast, and figuring out how to use this podcast as a vehicle to get that across. I hope that the things I say and talk about do motivate some people, trigger something in people to do something, to start something, to create something. Because I'm nobody, to the majority of people who are in the world. Other than my friends and family, it's not like I'm a famous author or celebrity or athlete or whatever. And it's funny with podcasting because everybody's doing it. Everyone, it seems like, is trying to start a podcast. I mean, it's insane when you hear some of the numbers that podcasts are doing. Like, Conan O'Brien, he has a podcast called Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. And some of the numbers he gets that I saw and that he talked about are just astronomical. Which makes sense. He's Conan O'Brien. His podcast is amazing. If you haven't listened to it, I highly recommend it. But, Dax Shepard's podcast, amazing. He's killing it. And so, it's funny that the podcasts that I listen to are all interview style. And that's what I enjoy, and that's what I like, and that's not what I'm doing. And so, I know that I've said this before, and I know that those of you listening and who have listened to my podcast, you're like, yeah, we know. You're beating a dead horse. It's true, I am. But I do want to do some interviews and figure that out. And it's funny because some of my other episodes I've talked about just doing something. And then here I am not following my own advice. like, there are so many tools out there to be able to do interviews over audio. You can do it on your phone. There's apps. There's a website called Zoom. You can do it through Skype. And I just keep making excuses and not doing it. I can have people over to my house that are local, but I just keep making excuses to not do interviews, which is the one main thing I want to do. Which I guess that's kind of how the thing works. Is like that one thing you want to do, you don't do it out of whether it's fear or whatever it might be. And for me, it's setting up some interviews. So that has to change. I get that. And so I'll figure it out. I wish I had 40 hours a week I could dedicate to this podcast and make it a full-time job, or any podcast for that matter. Even someone else's. I have so many ideas. I know what tools to use. I know what works. I just don't have the time. And to do it full blown. I can spend an hour a day here and there, but I wish I could spend 6 hours a day just learning podcasts, learning communications, learning how to communicate, learning the ins and outs, and helping other people. One of my good work friends, I actually don't think we've ever hung out outside of work, but him and his sister, I work with both of them, and they started a podcast. I think they're 2 episodes in. And like this week, like what really fired me up talking to him was talking about how it's done and what I do, and asking what tools you're using and how are you doing it, and that kind of stuff. And so I feel like there's something there, like it gets me fired up. And so I just keep making excuses to not do certain things when it comes to my podcast, and that gets really old for me. And so I'm hoping that it doesn't stay that way. I'm hoping that in the coming year, in 2020, things change. I'm going to be 40 this year. I'm actually going to be taking a communication workshop. It's a 2-day deal in LA for my 40th birthday. Not obviously on my birthday, but it's my gift to myself, is a conference called Something to Say. And so I'm looking really forward to that. And so I'm hoping that helps keep the wheels going and gives me ideas and gives me that push that I need to keep doing this. Yeah, it's frustrating at times to not have the time to do it. And so figuring out, I'm getting back into the groove of at least doing an hour a day of learning something about podcasting, or doing my podcast, or editing, or looking through analytics. But right now it's spending 1 hour a day because I can do that. I can spend an hour a day doing something that I'm passionate about. And that comes to my point that you can too. Stop watching Netflix. Stop watching Disney Plus. I'm and as I'm talking, I want you to know that I'm speaking to myself for the most part when it comes to this stuff, especially in the last couple months, the way it's been. But I'm also speaking to you who's listening and who is struggling with starting something new and wanting to do something. Like, we make up so many excuses that aren't valid excuses. There are some legit excuses, but there's also those excuses that aren't legit. And if, like for me, I recognize this, and there's things that I need to stop doing so I can focus on this. And I recognize that. Like, I complain like I don't have enough time, and then it's like, wait, I just spent 2 hours watching this TV show, or I just spent 3 hours watching a football game. It's stupid. Like, that's such a waste of time. And I know that, and I'm recognizing that, and so I'm trying to correct that, because I feel like I had it figured out a while ago, and I was really consistent on doing these things to better myself when it comes to podcasting and communicating and speaking. And so that's all changing. And I'm not making a New Year's resolution because I'm starting it now. I started this week 3 days ago, so November 16th, 17th. That's when it started. It's not going to be January 1st, because first off, I'm not sure I've ever kept a New Year's resolution, and so I don't even want to call it that. I just want to call it getting better and doing stuff daily to get better. So here we are. That's what's been happening in my world. That's what's going on in my head as I think through this and try to figure out where this podcast is going. It's been a dry season the last couple months. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that happened in October, but and maybe I just needed a break. Maybe I needed to just not do it for a while and just take a break. And so maybe that's what I needed. So we're going to get back into it. That's what this is all about. I appreciate you listening, and I'll be back next week or tomorrow. Who knows? I'm also trying to figure that out. Do I do one a week, or do I do it just whenever I feel like it? Because I could release one every Tuesday or every Monday or whatever, or I could just do them when I feel like them and release them every day again, or every 3 days, or every 10 days, or every 14 days, whatever. It's another thing I got to work through and figure out, especially until I find an exact niche to talk about. If I had an NBA team, that's easy. I do 82 because there's 82 regular season games and then playoffs. I would do a podcast after every game, but again, I don't have the time to put in for that. And so that's what I also have to figure out is, what am I passionate about? I mean, obviously it's sports, but I also have a 40-hour-a-week full-time job and a family that I love hanging out with and spending time with. And so that's why it's I'm going to take an hour a day to figure this out. My dad always used to tell me when things were too big, it's like eating an elephant. It's one bite at a time. You can't eat the whole thing in one sitting. It's just really funny to think about. As a kid, I didn't really think about it, And you get older and you're like, I would never eat an elephant, but I get it. So one bite at a time for me is 1 hour a day right now. And we'll go from there and see what happens. But it's exciting. And yes, my voice is still this way. It's soothing is what a lot of my friends and coworkers say who listen to this, because again, if you've heard this podcast, you've heard me say this, I'm doing this at night after my family's asleep, so I'm trying not to be too loud, but I actually am a really energetic and loud person when it comes to life in general, and so I'm trying to tone it down at night though, so I don't wake up the family. Thanks for listening. We'll talk later.